Hey everybody, this is Matthew Soltiziak, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast, part of the Minute Media Podcast Network. This season, it's all grit. I speak with a variety of guests and interview key players, gaining more insight on what makes this team go. The Detroit Lions are now in a new, grittier era, and we look beyond just the kneecaps when it comes to the analysis. Welcome to another episode. In this episode, we get you ready for the Detroit Lions Week 4 Monday Night Football matchup when the undefeated Seattle Seahawks visit Ford Field. We discuss takeaways from film breakdowns, share what we expect from each team, as well as how the Lions might match up. That and more. Let's get to it, Lions fans.
Hey everyone, this is Lomas Brown, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast.
I'm joined today by Coach Jerry Angers, former Michigan High School Coach of the Year, as well as Coach of the Week by the Detroit Lions, and current Scouting and Training Director from Bull Rush Sports. Coach, it's great to have you here talking Lions football.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there is nothing better than talking Lions football. Well, maybe there is. Maybe driving down to Detroit to watch the Tigers pull one off again today and then driving back for this. Oh, my God, Detroit is crazy. And just another winning program in Detroit is totally awesome.
There is a lot of excitement around the city of Detroit, especially where those Detroit Tigers are coming up and playing some baseball right now. I mean, you look at those stats and those numbers, and you don't understand how it's happening, but it's happening. And that's what makes it that much more exciting, because it's the unexpected, it's the unanticipated, and yet they keep getting it done and they keep finding ways. And, Coach, it's good that we had the Tigers doing that right now, because the high of the victory Monday that we had, that evaporated faster than that blue leaving the desert in Arizona when we saw that injury report come out on Monday. And so we don't usually start the show with injuries, but we're going to talk about them right away here because a lot came out. Again, with the Lions not playing until Monday night, injury stuff didn't come out until Thursday, so that's why we're doing the show a day later. But the big newses of the week were Marcus Davenport and Derek Barnes both on IR. Let's talk about those two right there. Big things on the defense, Coach. How is that going to change the Lions?
Well, I mean, we built depth, which is great, but Barnes has just been playing at a high level, as Coach Campbell has said, and of course Davenport. The ability for him to press the pocket. I mean, look at Hutch in his first 3 games. Even though Davenport missed one of the games, we knew going in it was a risk picking him up. We hate to lose him, but I still think he was there. He's going to be there to help the younger guys. I think he's going to help coach them up. So I don't, you never say, oh my God, we shouldn't have never picked him up. It was a cheap pickup. And Barnes has just been playing so many different positions, and his expertise, I guess, or all of his games that he's had in is really, we're going to miss it. I mean, people can fit in, people can slide in. We can put this guy in, we put that guy in, but it's still Derek Barnes, the guy who intercepted a pass against Tampa Bay last year, and a guy that has just been, worked himself into, because he's always been doubted. So, but it sounds like we should get him back sometime at the end of the year. So tough replacements, but hey, this is the NFL, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, there are so many injuries around the entire NFL right now. And obviously the Lions are now no longer immune to that either. And it's also tough because we just saw such another dominating performance by this defense this week. And so having that happen right then and there just really hurts. Now, they're not the only guys that are out. Frank Ragnow has actually been ruled out for this week. Coach Campbell, at his press conference, said that they could dance around it, but we're just going to get right to it. Ragnow's not playing this week. Lions are on a bye the week after. Gives him more time to heal up. It seems like the Lions are trying to play the long game with this rather than an aggravation or risking worsening it, that give him time to heal so that he can be better in the long haul. I'm sure you subscribe to that as well, but I'll have you weigh in on that. And then, what do you think the plan of attack will be? Will Michael Neese step in at center, or will they move Graham over and put Neese at guard? And any thoughts on either of those two things?
Well, I mean, Rags is Rags. I mean, that's going to hurt us. He's the best center, I think, in the league. He's a tough individual. He's fighting with Coach Campbell every day about playing, and Coach Campbell made it. And I love it. I love that this is a long-term thing. Is this one game, us winning this one game and him getting hurt for the rest of the season, is that as important as the long haul? So I love that. I think the other part is we've built this roster for people to step up. We played, how many games last year did we play without a full offensive line, and we were successful? Granted, it's Ragnar. So going to the subbing part, I never say screw up two positions for one. Right? I mean, that's the hardest thing to do. I would just plug and play. But the problem is the plug and play guy has no NFL experience. And so I think that's going to be a hard thing. So I think because we have I think it's a guard, we can slide Glasgow over and have him play center. He did last year. We have a guard that's going to step in that played at that position last year. So I think that may be something they're going to do. They may flirt with starting the Nice, geez, oh man. And and I thought he had a good preseason, and I think the Lions did too, but I think it might be, and again, this all might determine how they're going to play one of these guys, who they're going to play by what the defensive line for the Seahawks looks like. They have a couple tackles banged up too. So it'll be interesting to see, but I'm going to say Glasgow at center.
And you know what, like you said, there's no guarantee that Nice will be the guy that does step in there either. I mean, you've got Coyote Awashika, who stepped in last year and played well at the guard position. And like you said, the center is going to handle the ball on every single play of the offense. And so the experience that Glasgow has might be the tipping point for that as well, going along with that other part where you said, hey, do they want to mess up two positions versus one right there? So that's the injury part. That's been the detrimental news. We got some optimism coming out of this practice report, though, too. Even though Laporta wasn't practicing, he was running on the sideline with trainers. So at least you saw him out there moving. Skipper was out of practice as well, as was Ifeatu Melifonwu. And so, if he hasn't been practicing, so that's not a surprise. So a little bit better news is Alex Anzalone and Enos Rakestraw were back at practice, and Brian Branch and Aleem McNeil were also practicing. So, Coach, those are some big names and a variety of positions, especially on the defense there, along with Laporte on the offense. How's that making you feel on the overall health of the defense with those guys at least being able to practice now?
Well, it's huge. I mean, you're looking at those are upticks. Those are, we have how many more days? We're not playing on Sunday. We're playing on Monday. It makes a big difference that extra day. And so, that's very positive. I think the other thing too is not even if they play or who plays or how much they play or how they play, but it's them being out there and the rest of the team. These guys are all fighting for each other. These guys are all want to be the other. They're the guys that may play, then we have great backups. The guys that may not play, then these backups. But you notice one thing, this team doesn't want to sit. These guys don't want to sit, and there's and again, they have a bye week coming up, and that might be what they're saying to themselves too. But I'm very positive with that. But again, I'll be really positive I think it's an hour and a half before kickoff when that one report comes out that lets us know who's playing.
For sure. And just like you said, the fact that these guys are trending towards being able to even possibly play is the good news for the long term of things. And, Alex Anzalone's health, losing the top two linebackers right there like that's a big detriment. And the way Brian Branch has been playing, if you have all three of those spots out going into this game, and there's going to be some challenges in this game against Seattle. So it's really good to know that, hey, we've got these guys back at practice. That's not the only thing going on. There's been some roster moves. Tim Patrick has been signed to the active roster. Not a surprise. I think that's one thing most of us thought was going to happen pretty early on once he got acclimated. The Lions also signed Allen Robinson to the active roster. Now, they had two spots open up with Davenport and Barnes both going on IR. And I was a little surprised that Robinson got signed right away as well. But, You know, our colleague there, James Cook, pointed out that with Robinson being a veteran, he doesn't have to go through the waiver process to get back on the Lions practice squad, which is a big deal because that's how the Lions lost Trevor Nowaski late last year. And so that's something they don't have to worry about, and they can just keep him and move him if need be at some other point. Lions also added a defensive back and a linebacker to the practice squad. But like I said, the Lions aren't the only team in the NFL dealing with injuries. Have you ever tried to explain football to a kid? It's near impossible to make it make sense. I know my girls didn't get it at first. Well, meet Future Fans, an innovative brand that helps little kids become big fans by embedding the rules of football into parallel games and activities. My daughters and I read through the book and we played each of the games. Their excitement grew as we progressed, and at the end, you could see the connection between the activities and how they correlated to understanding football. It's a well put together product. Folks, in addition to running Not the Same Old Lions podcast, I'm also a teacher. I know a thing or two about learning. Future Fans specifically designed their product to engage and educate kids about the game of football. My daughters aren't just fans of watching football either. They're now playing flag football too. And they're big Lions fans. If you want your kid to understand football, Future Fans is for you. It's only $49.99. Use the code LIONS at futurefans.com to get 10% off and unlock a lifetime of memories with a kid in your life starting now. You know, the running back out of Seattle, Kenneth Walker, he has been hurt. He's played one game this year. He practiced today on a limited basis, and that could be a big deal for Seattle and their offense. What else are you seeing out of Seattle's injury report, Coach?
Well, going back to Walker, that oblique thing is, you're going to be limited practice to see how much he can do. And a lot of that's pain and how much he can tolerate, but he's a pretty tough guy. I mean, I watched him, I'm a Spartan dog. So, he's a tough one. The 2D tackles, Murphy and Williams, I think they were limited today or practiced a little bit. Williams had hurt his ribs. Murphy had his hamstring. Three of their linebackers were out. I think it's Nwosu, Nwosu, sorry. He hasn't played yet this year, but he's one of their star linebackers. So, there's, again, it's the NFL, and this is what we're dealing with. And you better have, what do they call it, the 69-man roster now instead of the 53, right? Because of the 16 guys on practice. And there better be guys on that practice squad that you can pluck and push back in there and have them, give us a game, give us some reps, so, those are the big things. Everybody's banged up, and we'll see how it all shakes out. We'll know, of course, know a lot more on Monday at that hour and a half time. So.
For sure. And, so let's look at how Seattle's different from last year. Obviously, you mentioned Byron Murphy, the first-round defensive tackle draft pick out of Texas. He's their most notable. They added 8 draft picks last year, though. But really, the biggest change in Seattle isn't the player personnel. It's the head coach. Pete Carroll is gone. So Mike McDonald's now their head coach, former defensive coordinator from Baltimore the last 2 years. That is the biggest change. And Coach Campbell weighed in on that.
Honestly, not that much, just in the fact you always knew when you were getting ready for, Coach Carroll's teams, man, everything was built off of defense, and it started there, and everything kind of, that was really their foundation, and then everything was kind of built off of that. And this team's very much the same way. Now, I will say that they aired out more. Now how much of that is because Walker's been out? But they're throwing the ball. They're putting it in the hands of Geno and letting him. And really a lot of it is just take what's there, and then confusion, shot play, big play, like I talked about the Metcalf. So, man, they're willing to take what's there and then buy their time until the explosive shows up, and then they hurt you with it. That's what they've done for 3 weeks, man. They make them count.
Campbell broke it down pretty well, and it's funny, another thing that he was also asked was if he could take anything away from when the Lions faced Baltimore last year and apply it to this, and Campbell almost laughed at it and said no. He said that game last year was such a mess that after like 5 to 10 minutes, there was nothing useful from that thing. So, Coach, I know you follow Baltimore quite closely last year as well, and Pete Carroll's time in coaching. Compare, contrast, how's the McDonald style from your perspective different than Pete Carroll's style of coaching?
Well, Pete Carroll's, he was one of the best, I mean, hands down. I mean, the guy could motivate his guys. The guy was flying around on the sidelines. He was getting the guys excited. He is scheming. I mean, look at what he did against the Lions. We've lost him 3 years in a row, or 3 games in a row. I think it's 3 years in a row too. And
It was both 3 years in a row, 3 games. Yep.
Yeah. So there's a big difference. McDonald's, he's brand new. He's a new guy, under the limelight with the headset on, controlling not just defense, which is what he's controlled over the last few years. He's a disciple of the Wink Martindale defense, which is really weird because watching them, they don't blitz like Wink Martindale. I think they're the least blitzing team in the league right now. They've been playing with their base thing. So, I think your experience comes into play. He was with the Ravens. He was McDonald's with with Michigan. Then I think is Michigan back to the Ravens. So he's kind of into that cycle. He's probably more of a John Harbaugh guy with some Wink Martindale sprinkled in there. So it's going to be a big difference. And you got a new young coordinators. You got some of the other guys. I know you heard a couple of the other guys to get on staff probably to help him walk through things. But there's no comparison between him and Carroll. 10 years from now, we may be saying something different, but right now you can't. He's a young guy he's got the guys playing well. They're 3-0, and so, but I don't think you take much from that.
Yeah, I think that experience thing is going to be the biggest difference because, as I'm sure you can, speak to this, is the type of coach you were in your 7th, 8th, 9th year of coaching versus your 1st and 2nd, you evolve. But again, Mike Macdonald does have a lot of time around both of the Harbaughs, and so he has learned from them. And so I guess now it's time to find out, what do we expect out of this Seattle team? Well, I think we've got a pretty confident team coming in. Here's Coach Campbell weighing in on it.
This is a good opponent coming in. They're playing complementary football over there right now. Very good defensive team. Really, all the main categories they're outstanding at. A lot of 2 safety, get you in 3rd down, and they're outstanding. 3rd and 4th down, I mean, they're tops in the league. Red zone defense, obviously passing defense. They can create pressure up front. So, they're an issue.
So, Coach, I mean, that offense is 9th in points in the league. They rank 8th in yards, 23rd in the run, and 3rd in the pass. Now, a couple things here. That 23rd in the run could be attributed partly to the Kenneth Walker injury. And the 3rd in the pass shouldn't be ignored based on the trio of pass catchers they have. And I want to get into this. I know you've broken down some game film. We also want to point out we're 3 games into the season. And before a season starts, we all look at strength of schedule and you think you know how it's going to be. But the truth is you never know how a team's going to be. And the truth is we still don't know how some of these teams are going to be. Again, we didn't expect that Seattle would be 3-0. At least maybe some people didn't when they saw the schedule, knowing that they were going to play Miami in week 3. But Miami had to play without Tua. And so Seattle's 3-0. They beat Denver week 1 with a rookie quarterback. They beat New England in week 2 in overtime. And then they beat Miami with Skylar Thompson at quarterback. Not to take too much away from those victories, but they did not go up against Baker Mayfield or Matthew Stafford or Kyler Murray. And so those are some different talented level of quarterbacks that they have seen. And again, I guess we're talking about offense now, and I brought up offenses they went against, but they scored points in those games, 9th in points overall. What are you seeing out of the Seattle offense right now? Because I do think this is a talented and dangerous offense by the Seahawks.
Oh yeah, I mean, you look at let's put Walker in the picture, take Walker out of the picture. You still have Geno. He's a smart quarterback. He throws the ball well. He can run. He can get himself out of trouble. He had a big run. I think it was against Denver for a touchdown. I believe that was one. They were in man coverage. He saw it. Boom, went to the end zone, took it to the house. So those are the things you got to worry about. He's got some experience under his belt. Metcalf is a monster. I mean, that guy is just a big receiver. And we got to get under his skin. He gets a little upset and things like that. I think, us banging him around might be a big difference. He's had some problems. Lockett is as good as a receiver, I think, as there is in the league. The guy's a great great route runner, catches the ball well. He's smart. He's been around. He's been with Pete Carroll. Now he's with his new head coach and his new OC. So I think, yeah, they are definitely scary. We can talk about, and we do. You talk about, everybody brings it up. Hey, they're playing Denver. Denver struggled last year, and they started a rookie quarterback. Hey, New England was 4-13 last year with a new head coach. And now then you play Miami without Tua, but it's still the NFL, and they still won 3 games in a row, and they're high on it. And so I think there's a lot of things to do. Scheme wise, if you want to talk about it, and Coach Campbell talked about it, and I already sent a couple film out, and I'll send out 3 more. What you give them, they're going to keep taking till you take it away from them. For instance, they ran those 5 plays on the right hash from the right hash. They blocked it different. Okay, they lined up formations different, but they ran the same thing. That was kind of how we were when I was coaching. Hey, if we got 5 yards in that play, why are we going to go left? Why are we going to go right? To make them stop it. And that's what they do. And then they kind of sit back and wait until you stop that, and then they come back with something else, to change it up. But they're going to make you stop. They're going to make you stop it. One of the other things, real quick, Matt, they were lining formation to the field. So they were throwing to the field, yet they were running the boundary. And again, I don't have all the technology that I used to have to where I could sit there and count and give you percentages. But I found a lot of tendencies in that situation. I found a lot of things where, hey, they're going to run right, they're going to throw left. I think that he locks on his receivers. He's going to look to the 3 receiver side and go from there. There's a lot of things out there, but they're also. The players have been in Ford Field before, but the coaching staff has not. And I think that's a huge plus for us. I really do with how I say, and we're hungry. Dan Campbell doesn't like to lose to somebody once in a row. Can you say that? But he's lost 3 times in a row. So, but that's kind of what I've seen out of their offense. And I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, well, and that offense has not been an easy offense for the Lions to defend the last couple of years. I mean, major shootouts. I was there at the season opener last year where it went to overtime, the season home opener. And the year before when they played Seattle, that was a game where it was like 45-40 or something. It was a very high-scoring game as well. And, yeah, and you add Jackson, Smith, and Jigba to that receiving core. They've got a solid tight end, and they are a very talented offense. And so I agree with you. Those opponents might not jump off the page to somebody and say, wow, they're not the greatest teams, but it's the NFL. And not only did you win a game, you win 3 games in a row, you get a little confidence. And the more confidence you get in anything, the better you tend to do with it. And so the Lions secondary, they're going to have some work in this one because this could be the most talented receiving core they have seen yet this year. And we've seen 2 good ones. Last week we saw a rookie, possibly star in the making, but it wasn't like the Tampa core and it wasn't like the Rams before Puka Nacua got hurt. And so you got 3 guys out there. That's why Branch is going to be so important to be healthy, to be back for this game. Terry and Arnold's going to be locked up either maybe on Tyler Lockett, maybe on Jackson Smith and Jigba. Carlton Davis, I presume, will be on DK Metcalf, but I don't know. I haven't looked at the matchups just well enough. But if you can get Rakestraw back there with Amik Robinson to be able to, rotate back and forth, that would be nice to have some depth. What are you thinking about the Lions? If I look over at their defense, they're ranking 9th in points scored, 10th in overall yards, 4th against the rush, and 19th against the pass. And it doesn't shock you because once we shut the running game down, that causes the other team to pass more. So it does give more yards to that. And so, there was that game where we gave against the Rams, but we didn't let us get beat deep. And so do you think the defense might take that sort of approach, or what are you looking for out of the Lions defense going up against this offense that we do think is potent for the Seahawks?
I think we'll be aggressive because I think we want to take away, for instance, let's go back to the run game where they ran Walker down the right, Walker down the right, Walker down the right. I feel the Lions are going to be aggressive to make them change immediately because they don't want to change immediately. They don't want to, they may line up a different formation. They may bring a motion down, they're running their trap concept, but they want to hit you. If they're going to hit you for 5 yards where the Lions may be soft, I think the Lions are going to attack that spot where they just hit us for 5 yards on the next call. So that's what I mean by being aggressive. I think it may not be the the first play of a drive or the first play after first down or, earn first down or things like that. We can talk about that. But that second play after a positive play for Seattle, we are going to attack the spot that play was in. That's my gut feeling because that's what I would do. I would attack the spot that they were just successful in because they're going to come back to it. And if they don't come back to it, then they're out of their game plan because that's not what they've done for 3 games. Does that make sense?
It does. And I'm optimistic about things because of the fact that this is the most talented secondary we've had since Dan Campbell has been here. And so when you add that aspect to it, you're like, hey, this is great because, our talent level is rising. Now, it's still a formidable opponent, and Seattle's offense might actually be better than last year. I mean, they are currently, I believe, number 3 in the NFL in passing yards as a team. And so there is going to be some work to be done with that. But I also think I like the way we stack up. I like the pieces we have back there. And now the Lions secondary has 3 games together under their belt. So I think it sets them up for more success that way. Now, will they be able to get enough pressure on Geno Smith? He does have 8 sacks, I believe, this year, which is double what Jared Goff has. And most people would think with the mobility aspects of each guy, Geno Smith isn't known as a running quarterback, but he's got more mobility than Jared Goff. I think that's a fair statement. But tells you the job that Detroit Lions offensive line has done to keep Jared Goff upright. So I do think the Lions are going to have to get some pressure, and you might need a little more interior pressure if Davenport's not, he's not playing. So if you're not getting that push from the side where he was before, maybe Levi Onwuzurike, maybe Josh Pascal are stepping up. If Aleem is in there, and if DJ Reader, he's already got a game under his belt now, right? 1 game, 2 games. So yeah, he's got 2 games under. So you might see a continued evolution of him working himself back in. And so it's going to be a great matchup, and I like where we stand on this. Anything? Well, I guess last thing, pass rush. How do you think we're going to handle the pass rush? Not handle it. How are we going to do with the pass rush against Seattle this week?
Well, I think you're going to. Here's the thing. What did we do last week? We kept him viced in. We kept him in the box. We kept him inside there where we want him. And I think we're going to try to do that with Geno. We don't want to let him get out. Like I told you, he had that long touch on. I'm almost sure it was Denver, and that was we're in man coverage, and they split. So I think you're going to see a lot of that push and a lot of that pressure, not letting him get outside, on us. And you're gonna you got to look at it. He's Kyle Murray, but he's big, or Kyle Murray's him, but he's smaller. Whatever. I don't care how you look at it, but you're still looking at the same type of quarterback. That are going to take shots, going to take chances, but are going to use their feet when they need to. So I think you're still going to get, and the good thing is we just faced a quarterback like this last week. And so we had that practice. We got things, we have film on it to go, hey, don't do this. Hey, do this. Hey, don't do, and you're going to be able to make some changes because the eye in the sky don't lie. So I think it's a benefit that we played that 2 quarterbacks like that 2 weeks in a row.
For sure. And yeah, it was a 34-yard run, I believe, that he had for that touchdown. Now, Geno Smith on the season, though, has 11 carries for 36 yards. Now, a few of those might be kneel downs at the end of a game, very likely. But, Yeah, he does possess that ability. It's not part of his regular game, but you're right. If it's there, he could take it. So the Lions do have to be aware of that. And so let's flip it around here. Let's look at the Seattle defense against the Lions offense. Now, Seattle's defense ranks 4th in points, 2nd in yards allowed, 15th in rush defense, and number 1 in pass defense. Now, again, we looked at the quarterbacks they have faced. Those are not the most daunting, experienced quarterbacks. So that plays a role. And so the Lions, on their hand, face some tougher quarterbacks, so you would expect their numbers to be a little different against the pass. And that being said, maybe those teams leaned on the rush more, so they ran better. But I like the Lions' opportunity to run the ball here. The Lions on offense are 16th in points scored, 4th in offense, right? 4th in running the ball, and 7th in passing. So I'm liking the way the Lions run in this game, depending on how well that offensive line plays together with the adjusted pieces. But I'm optimistic in the creativity of Ben Johnson to get both David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs involved in this one. Each running back has over 200 yards rushing on the season. David Montgomery's averaging 4.5 yards a carry. Jahmyr Gibbs, 5.2. Each of them has had a run of over 20 yards. And so I like the rotation, keeping them fresh. And so what are you looking for out of the Lions offense against the Seattle defense?
Well, a couple things that point out, which I thought was pretty interesting. Seattle's defense has recorded 30% pressures on opposing quarterbacks on dropbacks. 30%, which is 2nd highest rate in the NFL. Okay, so that's pretty impressive. Okay, they've also done this with the least blitzing team at 14.2%. Okay, so they're basically using their front 4. Okay, they're using their front 4 to get pressure on. I think they'll have a tough time doing that with us, which comes back to Coach McDonald and the tree he's fallen off of, or the tree he's branched out off of, or which way you want to look at it. And that's, the Harbaughs, Wink Martindale's, because Wink Martindale is a blitzing fanatic. He has got more blitz concepts than anybody you've ever seen. He's doing it at Michigan now. He did it with the Giants. He did it with the, and McDonald worked with him. So he worked with him like 4, 5, 6 years. So my gut feeling is he's going to pull out some of those blitz concepts against the Detroit Lions. And I think the reason of that is because Jared Goff, when he's getting blitzed, he doesn't throw as well, his percentage is low or whatever. So, and he hasn't seen those at all, hasn't seen some of those blitzes. So I think they're going to attempt to use their 4-man rush to stay in the trend that they've been doing. But I also believe if that does not work, they're going to dial up some things to try to surprise Jared Goff. The other reason you think about, let's talk about the first 3 teams. We may have seen those blitzes last week if Tua was playing, but Tua did not play, so they did not blitz. Makes sense? So that's my gut feeling. And again, that'll all be determined too by if Williams plays and Murphy plays.
That makes a lot of that makes a lot of sense. And we might see the Lions having Brock Wright in there. They might have a 2 tight end set to help out with that running game more. Whether Skipper's available or not could also play a factor in those things. But I like the way the Lions again can run against Seattle. I think they will. I do think that's one of the areas I do think the Lions are going to have success. I know Frank is out and it's going to change some things there, but I'm really optimistic on that. I do think it's interesting that point you bring up about whether they will blitz or not against the Lions, because Jared Goff is a rather accurate passer. And when he's on, like we saw him early against Arizona, he's just moving. And you're going to have to get pressure on him to give him less time to get it out. Otherwise, you're going to really rely on your secondary to cover those guys. And that might not be a luxury Seattle has like it had the first 3 weeks of the season, especially with Tim Patrick getting more integrated into this system. It gives another target that Goff is getting more comfortable with. Jamison Williams actually leads the Lions in yards receiving with 209. He's got 2 more yards than Amon-Ra St. Brown, even though he has 10 fewer catches. And so, but that's the differences in their games. And they both complement each other because they do different things for this offense that makes the offense so good. I do think whether Sam Laporta plays or it's Brock Wright, you're going to see the tight end involved in this game for the Lions, especially if the linebacking core is a little banged up in the middle of that defense for Seattle. And so, and you might even see those bigger receivers out there blocking. I do think it'll be interesting to see if the Lions try a little bit more of the screen pass game we saw in week 2, because they went really away from it in week 3. And so that'll be an interesting thing to kind of keep an eye on. Other thoughts, Coach, you got on the Lions offense here?
Well, and I think that's the thing is to go back to that. We want to try to establish that run game. Seattle knows that. They've talked about the Lions offense revolves around their run game, and let's talk about, what Seattle has on defense. Love and Jenkins, the 2 safeties, are rated the best combination safeties in the league, through PFF or whatnot, and again,
Yeah,
people are noticing them. The dudes can play. And then you take Witherspoon and Woolen, right? And he's, they're 2 of those guys are rated in the top 10 in the league through PFF. Okay, again, that's what we read. We don't get to watch them on film like everybody else does. So keeping those 2 safeties back there and their coverage ability with the 2 corners, and then of course Witherspoon moves inside and plays slot corner in their nickel package. So then they bring another corner in so we have to get them out of their comfort zone. And that's going to be the big thing. And I think, how are we going to open that pass up? We go back to it probably with the run, and trying to get those guys to creep down into the box. And once we can get them creeping into the box, then we can hit the big score, big splash plays over the top. If they're going to stay back, we're going to hit those Amon St. Brown, and the tight ends are going to have big days. If they squeeze down the box, J-Mo and those 2 big receivers are going to have big days. That, it's football 101, and that's what the Lions are going to do. They're going to try to get those dogs, those studs that they have out of their comfort zone and not where they want to be.
I concur with that. And, the Lions aren't going to take this team lightly. I mean, I really thought the Lions were going to beat Seattle last year at Ford Field. And I was surprised that they lost, surprised the game went to overtime. Going into that game, especially coming off that season opening win against Kansas City last year, you just felt like the Lions had progressed. But again, Pete Carroll and his coaching, and it was brought up that the Lions haven't beaten them in like 12 years. And Campbell didn't care about the 12 years, but it's that 3 years in a row thing. And I'm sure it doesn't just have his attention, but everybody in there knows, and they're ready for it. So question is Seattle ready for it? Potentially. They're going to Detroit on Monday night. And yeah, it was loud last time when they went to Detroit on the home opener for them on a Sunday afternoon. But things have changed at Ford Field since that time. And it's going to be a Monday night atmosphere. They're bringing out the black jerseys that they haven't worn since the Dan Campbell era, the updated ones, of course. And they got a cool little look to them. They've grown on me. At first, I wasn't like, I'm a big Honolulu blue guy with the silver pants. And those have been my favorite from the 90s, and they updated that. I honestly like all the uniform options these days, though, all the new ones they came out with, even the marshmallows. But that's going to be a game atmosphere there. I expect it to be extremely loud. Like you said, a lot of these players have been to Ford Field, but maybe not this exact Ford Field, and most of these coaches have not. So what are you expecting out of that atmosphere?
I'll tell you right now, being in the stands when those lights go down and that smoke comes off and those Detroit Lions come out of that black tunnel wearing those black uniforms and that blue helmet just popping, get out of their way, dude. I'm telling you, that it's going to be electric. And I think that's one of the biggest things as a coach, as a former player, as a former coach. Anytime you can pull something out like that, it ignites the guys. I remember we played a game, and I love bringing this stuff up. We played a game in high school when I was coaching at Traverse City West against Ron Colley out of Indianapolis, and they had won 4 out of state championships 4 out of 6 years, and we went out and did pregame, and we had ordered all green top, green jersey, green pants to go with our gold helmets, green socks, and they went out in their normal uniforms. And when they came back into the locker room, we had all those new green uniforms hanging. The kids had no idea about it. And I thought they blew the roof off of Jenison High School because we had to play down there. It was the loudest thing I have ever heard. And guess what happened in that game? Ron Colley went down. And I think about that stuff all the time. And you remember me? How many times did we have helmet changes at Glen Lake? I mean, guys love that stuff. So
well, there's that phrase, right, Coach? Look good, play good, right?
yes, I love it.
And my daughter and I went to the NFL draft. We both got to put on a helmet and a jersey, and she chose the golf jersey, so I grabbed the Hutch jersey. I got to put on the black jersey with the blue helmet, and again, seeing it in person sold me on it. I was like, this is pretty sweet. So it's going to be a pretty great atmosphere. And you know who else used to wear the black jersey along with Dan Campbell? The man Calvin Johnson. And he is going to be at this game, not just as a fan, but as an inductee to the Pride of the Lions. And hopefully this is a very deja vu from a year ago, because a year ago on Monday Night Football, the Lions took care of business, and that's when Lomas Brown was inducted to the Pride of the Lions. And so this is awesome to see this for Calvin Johnson, 9 years in the league, all with the Detroit Lions, inducted in the NFL Hall of Fame. Obviously overdue, but things take time. We know the relationship with him and the Lions had to come back together after he retired, and so it did, and this is a really exciting time. And just one more extra thing that's going to boost all that fan excitement at the game.
For sure. It should be electric, for sure.
All right, Coach, before we get to predictions, simply, what's it going to take for the Lions to win this game? What's your big overall arching thing or theme for the Lions to win this game? What's going to have to happen?
Well, I think it's the same. Of course, if somebody asked me this, I'd say we have to score 1 more point. But we won't go with that one. But I think it's a big thing is not letting them get comfortable in anything they try to do. I think that's the biggest thing, defense, offensively and defensively. And I think that's one of the things we're going to have to, and another thing is anybody who has to step up that's injured for the injured people or has to step in if somebody gets injured, just like last week, we had guys step in and just get some great reps. And so I think that's what we have to do. We have to get them out of their comfort zone because they're feeling pretty comfortable at 3-0 and make them realize, okay, we're going to be 3-1. Oh my God, who thought we'd be 3-1 at this point? Well, we got to get on the plane and fly home now.
For sure. I kind of go on the same thing. Depth is going to have to step up. That goes with our offensive line. That goes with our defense in general. So, all right, Coach, it's that time before we get out of here to hit up predictions. All right. I know there's a lot of injuries around the NFL, but I still like the Lions' chances in this game. And I'm going to predict a crazy game atmosphere. Monday Night Football. Calvin Johnson with the Pride of the Lions. Seattle's coming in undefeated. The black uniforms. Lions are 3.5-point favorites, which means on a neutral site, they're only getting a half-point credit on this thing. So I'm expecting atmosphere. That's the first guy I'm going with. I'm predicting an off-the-charts atmosphere. Again, just more of the same from what we expect out of Ford Field. What was one of your predictions?
We're going to come out fast in the first quarter and in the third quarter. That's my prediction. Ooh. We're going to come out fast in the first, and we're going to come out fast in the third. And we're going to show what we have and what we're all about. And then, on the third part, we are going to withstand the body blows. We're going to be rocky. We're going to withstand the body blows. But when we hit that 12th, 13th, 14th round, we're going to knock them out.
All right. Well, if my calculations are correct, neither the Lions or the Seahawks have given up more than 20 points in a game this season. And the Lions, the most they scored was 26 themselves in that overtime win against the Rams. And the most Seattle has scored this season was 26 in their opening game against Denver. And so I'm going to predict that the Lions are going to score the most points on offense that they have all season. Might only be 27, but I think we're going to see the Lions, that 1 point you're talking about, Coach, right? I think we're going to see them score the most they've scored all season.
Yeah, I'll run with you on that one. I like that one. I really do.
All right. Coach, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Nope, just looking forward to it. I know we only have a few more days, and hey, go Tigers.
What a weekend we have coming up. We have Friday, Saturday, Sunday of Tigers. We have Monday for Detroit Lions. And then we'll see what happens after that as well. Coach, thanks for being here.
Appreciate the offer always.
And folks, thank you so much for tuning in. You can find more episodes and content at notthesameoldlions.com. Tell your friends and family about the show. Like, comment on socials. Subscribe regardless of your listening platform. And until next time, stay gritty, my friends.
If you're a facilities manager at a warehouse and your HVAC system goes down, it can turn up the heat, literally. But don't sweat it, Grainger has you covered. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products for all your operations, including warehouse HVAC maintenance. And even better, they offer access to experts and fast delivery, so you and your warehouse can both keep your cool. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.